These multi-billion-dollar projects ended up being much more than their developers bargained for. Debt, poorly planned infrastructure, and dreaming way too big are a few of the reasons these ambitious megaprojects never quite reached the finish line. From a futuristic floating city to what should have been the world's tallest tower, let's have a look at some epic designs that were just too good to be true. Freedom Ship. When it came time to design this megacity at sea, both cruise ships and skyscrapers served as inspiration. The Freedom Ship was originally proposed back in the 90s as an entirely self-sufficient floating city that would be capable of traveling all over the world while providing the comforts of a community. The ship would have its very own economy, as if it were its own country. There would be shops, schools, jobs, everything needed to live a full and satisfied life. The plan for the 4,500-foot-tall, 25-story ship was that it would completely make its way around the world once every 2 years. It would stop at major ports along the way, so its 50,000 and some residents could get a taste of dry land. However, the Freedom Ship was going to be so big that it wouldn't actually fit in any of the ports. Instead, residents would have to fly to and from the floating city thanks to an airport on the ship's top deck. Unfortunately, the Freedom Ship never got past the design stage, because it turns out it's pretty difficult to convince 50 or so thousand people to give up life on land and live on a ship full-time. It also would have cost between $9 billion and $10 billion. But hey, maybe one day this floating city will be a great alternative to life on land. Rugang Hotel, Pyongyang. If we can't go out to sea, then maybe we should just aim for the sky. The Rugang Hotel in Pyongyang, North Korea, was designed to be the tallest hotel in the entire world. But now it's the tallest unfinished and uninhabited building in the world, according to Guinness World Records. Construction on the hotel began in 1987, with plans for it to open just 2 years later. It would be 1,080 feet tall, with 3,000 rooms and 5 futuristic revolving restaurants. Construction stopped completely when funding dried up in 1992. Now, over 30 years have passed since it was supposed to open its doors, and it's only the shell of a building. It's even been given the nickname Hotel of Doom. Estimates for the cost of the project range from $1 billion to $2 billion. That's a pretty costly building to just abandon. In 2011, some reports claimed the hotel would finally open within a year, but 2012 has come and gone with no official opening. Hope was rekindled again in 2016 when lights were seen in the hotel for the first time in years. 2 new walkways were soon added to the building, but there's still no announcement as to whether or not it will ever open. Nakheel Tower, Dubai. North Korea tried their hand at designing the tallest hotel, but Dubai wanted the tallest building, full stop. And no, we're not talking about the Burj Khalifa. At one point, there was supposed to be a tower even taller, rising as much as 1 kilometer into the clouds. Nakheel Tower, named after the real estate development company behind the project, was first proposed in 2003. It was originally called Al Burj, which simply means the tower. Reports vary on the tower's actual proposed height. Some say it was supposed to rise 3,300 feet into the sky, while others say it would have been over 4,921 feet tall. Either way, that's so monumental that the building would have experienced 5 different microclimate conditions from top to bottom. The 200-story skyscraper was supposed to become the centerpiece of the iconic Palm Jumeirah. Inside would be apartments, office, and retail space. The design would also incorporate sky bridges and an atrium at the very top of the tower, making it the highest atrium in the world. Clearly, a high-speed elevator was a must-have, and the plan was to design one that would take people from the bottom floor to the top floor in just 4 minutes. However, all this wasn't meant to be. In 2008, they started drilling pilings for the project, but in 2009, a financial crisis hit and devastated the real estate market, forcing Nakheel to end their plans for the record-breaking building. Chicago Spire. The United States had their own dreams of creating an epic tower, and it would have been the tallest building in the Western Hemisphere. This is the Chicago Spire. Its design was proposed by Spanish architect Santiago Calatrava back in 2007. It was envisioned as a tower teeming with hotels and condos, topped with a unique twisted spire. It was supposed to stand 2,000 feet tall with 150 floors. The Chicago City Council had to pass a measure to raise height limits on structures in the area just to get the design approved. The spire's many floors were designed to overlap one another while rotating around a large circular pillar. The facades were shell-like and featured thin pillars and overlapping arches. When they started construction in 2008, they were ready for the project to completely change the Chicago skyline. But in October 2008, the late 2000s recession was beginning to take effect, and the project came to a screeching halt. But not before there were lawsuits and a giant 76-foot deep hole with nothing to fill it. While the spire design is now abandoned, the plot of land is at least going to be repurposed. It's being replaced with a new $1 billion tower project. The updated plan features two sister skyscrapers that stand 875 feet and 765 feet tall. And while they're pretty cool, we gotta say we kinda miss the spire. Super Collider, Texas. The next one isn't a building per se, but it's one of the biggest, most expensive, and unfortunately, most disappointing megaprojects in the world. It's the superconducting Super Collider in Texas. The idea for the Super Collider was to design a huge underground ring that would be the world's most energetic participle accelerator. Its discoveries were hopefully going to change the world of physics. The collider would require a ring 52 miles in circumference and 14 feet in diameter, and over 16,000 acres of land. It would use 4,728 magnets that amounted to 41,500 tons of iron, which is equal to 4 times as much iron as was used to construct the Eiffel Tower. The site would also need to have office spaces and laboratories. The estimated cost of construction was over $6 billion, and the site would rack up about $600 million each year in operation costs. Construction on the project began in the early 1990s, but they were only able to dig 14 miles of tunnel before funding was pulled in 1993. Congress estimated that the cost of construction was going to exceed $10 billion, and they couldn't sink all that money into the Super Collider. However, it's estimated it cost them another $2 billion just to properly shut down the project for good. Forest City, Malaysia. Speaking of costly mistakes, let's head to Malaysia to explore a city that never reached its potential. All of the projects we've mentioned up until now were far from being finished, but this last one almost reached the finish line until everything went horribly wrong. Forest City was meant to be a dream paradise for all mankind. It was envisioned as a luxurious city spread across 4 man-made Malaysian islands. The almost 4,300-acre project was going to be 4 times the size of Monaco, and with a population of around 700,000 people, it would have had a density greater than Manhattan. The $100 billion metropolis was supposed to meet its population goals by 2040, with that number including tourists, workers, and residents. Construction ramped up in 2016, with offices, parks, hotels, and 250,000 housing units. The city was very nearly finished, but unfortunately it never quite realized its potential, and now it's falling apart. It's currently almost empty, with less than 5% of its expected population. Traveling through it is otherworldly. There are uninhabited luxury apartment buildings, abandoned stores, and the skyscrapers are, for the most part, completely empty. One of the reasons for its downfall is that middle to high-income earners don't want to move to the city because there's a huge lack of commercial activity. Without a booming population, the city will remain, well, boring. But to become exciting, it needs a population. So, will Forest City ever be more than a ghost town? Do you think there's a chance any of these projects will eventually reach their potential? If so, which ones? Sound off in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit that bell, like, and subscribe if you enjoyed today's video, because we've got a lot more content coming your way. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.